This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by All Star Vacation Homes. And, when you're planning your trip to Walt Disney World this summer and you're saying to yourself, I'd love to be able to go into the pool because it's going to be really hot in Florida, right? Especially in the summertime. And you know what happens? You get to the pool and what happens? It's full. Everyone else thought the same exact thing. You know what's great about an All Star Vacation Home, though? Among many other great amenities, they've got private pools. Think about it. The own pool just for you. That's right. You guys can go in it. You can relax. And the only annoying kids in your private pool are going to be your annoying kids. So check them out right now at allstarvacationhomes.com.
Bringing the world to your world, this is Walt Disney World Today. Here are Mike Scopa, Len Testa, Mike Newell, and your host, Matt Hochberg.
It's Friday, June 18th, 2011, and this is episode 891 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberg of StudiosCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for allears.net. Welcome, Mike.
Okay. Thanks, little fella. You're done now.
Is that to be a bug?
Have to be a bug.
Oh, I thought that was actually something you saying to Matt.
Nice.
Matty Cakes.
Also joining us on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. And Mike,
yes.
I'd like to be the first one to, if no one else has already, wish you a very happy International Hollywood Studios Awareness Week.
Yes, very excited. Actually, your gift came today.
Oh, you're welcome.
I really appreciate it. It's very nice.
That's right.
My own little Chinese theater. It's very nice.
Also joining us on today's show is the fabulous Annette Owens, a manager of customer relations and group services for MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. And Annette, you survived writing Star Tours 2.0 for the first time.
I did. Thank you. Thank you to Todd and Cheryl and Matt for twisting my arm and making me go. It was great. And I just want to say you can have your Hollywood Studios, whatever thing, but happy Father's Day to all of our dads that are listening a little early.
Yay. But by the way, Newell, just a quick programming note. Because Annette had such a good time on Star Tours, she would like to host the Star Speeder event, Phil Star Speeder event at Reunion.
Wow.
So if we can make that happen, that'd be great.
What?
I agree. Is that going to be after her live show?
That's right.
The All Annette live show? I like that idea.
I might have to have another event or something somewhere else. Maybe, I don't know.
As long as it's not blessed.
And for today's show, we invited many qualified and brilliant statisticians from touringplans.com. Unfortunately, none of them showed up. So instead, we have Henry Work, a developer for touringplans.com. Welcome to the show, Henry.
It's always a pleasure. Matty Cakes. Are we at that stage in our relationship? Can I call you Matty Cakes?
Not yet. But I did forget to. I always forget to mention, and I apologize. You're also the host of the Beta Mouse podcast.
That's right. Well, hello, Matthew. It is a good evening for you, sir.
Oh, so formal.
Well, wrong show.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about the quiet and not so quiet parts of the parks, depending on the daytime. And the parks definitely have a feel to them depending on the day in terms of how crowded they get. One of the first things I remember ever, my first tip, the closest thing I ever came from Disney noob into Disney nerd was, I remember we went to Epcot one year and someone told us that when you walk into the park in the morning, you should go to the back of the park because it's the least busy or it's less crowded. And we did that. I remember we went on Horizons and it was like, there's nobody here because, that relatively speaking, that's the back of the park. And so today we're going to talk about, what park do you want to talk about, Scopa? Pick one.
Well, let's start off with the crown jewel.
Oh, Hollywood Studios. Okay, well then, Hollywood Studios. What?
Place is always empty.
Oh, ow.
Anyway, you want to start with the Magic Kingdom?
Yeah.
Okay, Magic Kingdom. So we're going to talk about, there's really three distinct times of the day we're looking at. And Scopa, you'd agree that we're looking at the morning hours first?
Yeah, I would say the first 4 hours of the park day.
Okay, so the first 4 hours of the park day, which lands and areas, perhaps you could break it down even further, are the least busy and which are the busiest? So, let's start with Henry, our distinguished guest this evening.
Yeah.
Henry, where do you think, let's start with the least busy. So where do you think is the quietest places in the Magic Kingdom in the morning hours? First 4 hours the park is open.
Okay. So the least busy,
I like that
like right after Road Drop. Well, I was totally geared up for the most busy, but I'll do the least busy because presumably that's like the opposite, right?
Right, exactly.
So probably the most traveled spots are probably Fantasyland and Tomorrowland right after Rope Drop. So I think there are definitely quiet spots in Adventureland, Frontierland, and Liberty Square. The amount of people that veer left after in the mornings and try to hit Sesame Robinson or Magic Carpets or, go through just to the other side to Country Bear or Pirates, Jungle Cruise, not particularly high. So if you're looking for like a rope drop Dole Whip, a good time to go is in the morning.
Who wants ice cream at 9 o'clock in the morning?
At rope drop.
Who doesn't want ice cream at 9 a.m.?
That's true. That's true.
Followed by some popcorn and then a Mickey bar.
Yeah, I think a lot of the
that sounds
crowds are
good.
either going straight to Fantasyland or to the right to Tomorrowland.
And
I mean,
that'll
you do have
Liberty Square, not bad. I don't think the rope drop, the dash to splash, and whatever they used to call it to Thunder aren't as big anymore. I could be wrong about that though.
Yeah,
I
think you're right.
I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, you're gonna have it's not going to be a ghost town in Frontierland, but you're right. It's probably we're talking the busiest places. You're looking at Fantasyland and Tomorrowland.
Not too many people want to start the day with a second shower at Splash,
That's true.
What's your take on that, Scopa?
My thought was, thinking in terms of extremes. I have to think that a Liberty Square. I'm thinking Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's the loneliest place for the first several hours, at least for the first hour and a half, maybe two. And then I agree with what everyone's been saying, Matt, and that is that Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, everybody's going there, especially the young families. They're heading over there. They're heading over to Space Mountain. They're heading over to Dumbo. They're heading over to Peter Pan's Flight. They're all going over there. So I'm guessing that that Liberty Square would be number one. I think Frontierland and towards the back of Adventureland might be number two. I mean, I think if you're going to do Haunted Mansion and Pirates, you do it early in the morning and you just take your chances with the others. I know maybe you get a fast pass for Space Mountain and you come back later. But I'm thinking Liberty Square, Frontierland, and Adventureland.
See, I think I'm just nitpicking, but I think that Adventureland would actually be the least busiest, simply because there's of all the attractions there. I mean, really, who's going there in the morning to ride it? Pirates, Jungle Cruise, Aladdin. I mean, you really don't Tiki Room if it ever reopens. It doesn't really seem to be a whole lot of foot traffic over there. And Liberty Square, while you're right, there's not a lot of people going to Liberty Square. It's kind of like a funnel point for a number of different, either to get to the backside of Fantasyland or heading over to Frontierland. But I think we're all in agreement about the general consensus of which lands are going to be popular and which aren't in the morning hours.
Well, there's one more that I just thought of. What about Mickey's Toontown? What do you think?
It's gone.
Well, it's gone.
Gone.
Oh, that's right.
So, not a crowd.
Not a soul.
If it was still there, though. If it was still there.
Hard hats.
If it was still there, you could put it up there. It's kind of busy, but yeah.
Matt, the one thing I would add about Adventureland is that, logically, it doesn't make sense to go to Adventureland first, right? And just in terms of like if you want to ride the biggest attractions and have at least some overall weight. But I wouldn't discount the people who don't know the park issue just because it's so close to the hub.
Yeah.
So maybe people wander in there, maybe thinking that Pirates is a really busy ride like it was in probably the 70s.
And not everybody wants to go where the crowds are going. So, I mean, if I see a bunch of people heading towards Tomorrowland, I'll be like, let's go this way. Nobody's going this way.
Right. They might think that they could actually accomplish a little bit by going off to the left with
guess
everybody
we're
else
saying-
running straight and to the right.
Yeah, we should. Everything we're saying here is relative to the other, to
And
the
that-
busy parts, I should say.
When did Annette become so political?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Oh
my gosh.
All right, let's move on to the next 4 hours. So now we're talking what, Mike? Noon to 4?
Noon to 4, and my guess would be, well, I don't know. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you can take it, Mike.
I'm thinking Main Street USA,
Bingo.
The busiest or least busy?
the least busy.
Least. Yep.
Everybody spread out by now?
I think, I think that's the case, Mike. I think that it's because, I think anybody who's going to go to the Magic Kingdom, I think it's general knowledge that, if you're going to go to the Magic Kingdom, you want to get there early. So all those people who were going to get there for the day, probably majority of them are already there by noon.
Yeah.
The second crew is probably going to come in around 5 or 6, maybe 4, 5, or 6. So I think that first crew has been dispersed. They're in Tomorrowland, they're in Adventureland, they're in Liberty Square, whatever. And so Main Street USA is sort of light at that time of the day.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception, of course, probably the hour preceding the parade.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. But generally speaking, yeah. I mean, I think if you look at, and this holds true for all the parks, I mean, I think the busiest time for crowds trying to get into the park is probably between 10 and 11:30 or so. And that's when you're having all of the lazy people who didn't want to get up and that's the majority of the people who didn't want to get up for a rope drop. So they're going to get there sometime between 10 and 11, 11:30, maybe even as late as 12. But really, once you get to 12 o'clock, I think you're right, Mike. I mean, really, you just start. People are in the park, and anyone else who's coming to the park is going to be coming later in the day because they're probably doing something else in the morning.
Yeah.
All right, so Main Street USA. Now, where else do we think is going to be a busy part of the park besides Main Street USA?
No, that's going to be the least busy.
Oh, least busy. I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry. All right, well, let's go back into that one then. Any other least busy areas? Because you're dealing with.
I've got a most busy. One thing I do think you should avoid is the area between Splash Mountain and Big Thunder.
Yes.
In the middle of the day.
Oh,
That area just gets so crazy, and there are those stairs, and you see people falling. It's like dropping flies out there. It's crazy.
It's a war out there, folks.
I'm still thinking though Adventureland still doesn't hold the crowds. I'm with Mike. I agree that Main Street's that's a pretty good place to go if you're trying to avoid crowds, but Adventureland still isn't holding a crowd.
Yeah.
But the one exception to that, I think, is the Dole Whip line. That's
it depends on if Scope is
Yeah.
there or not.
And
and it depends on if it's the weather as well. But that seems to be quite the issue sometimes, especially with this big smoking area right there, and the pathway is pretty narrow.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It gets really narrow right at that point at Aloha Isle. For some reason, I don't know why, it just gets really
They really
narrow.
need to take the plants away from right there.
Well, I think that's trying to keep the smoking area separate from the main corridor
Just
there.
move the smoking area.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And when you say
Yeah,
move, you mean
move
to
it
like
outside
New
the
Jersey
park.
or something?
There's some swampland behind there.
Hoboken is nice this time of year. I think it's pretty much Main Street and Adventureland, relatively speaking, because Fantasyland is probably the worst it's going to be all day.
Yep.
And it's middle of the day,
Yep.
which is when most of those kids should normally be taking a nap, but they're not. Just saying.
And that's like the most hot part of the park. That's what I don't understand. It's like
Yeah.
the hottest part of the day. It seems to be it's the most crowded. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people are prescribed to the I paid X amount of dollars for this vacation. We're going to have fun, darn it.
Right.
Or
or just the kids are just complaining until they get what they want.
Yeah, they're just trying to plow through the day, because again they want to get their money's worth, so to speak. And the other, I guess, what's your take on Liberty Square? Where does that fit into? Least busy or busy?
Wow.
I still think it's kind of on the least busy side because I see that area. When we talk about the next time of the day, that will be in the busiest time of the day, I think, because that's when you start getting the people who want to check out the Haunted Mansion at night. They want to go. It's time for dinner, and Pecos Bills is a huge pull for dinner.
Pecos.
By this point, people are desperate for anything that has a shorter wait, so they're going to, the Hall of Presidents. So for those reasons, I think it's more of a nighttime pull, or at least the evening, I should say, versus even in this, especially like when you're talking, 12 to 4 is a wide range, but even the first couple hours of it's probably not that busy. Although, again, the parade hours, again, kind of skew things.
Yeah.
One bottleneck also to watch out for is the Peter Pan bathrooms. That always seems to be crazy crowded, and especially the corridor between Small World and Peter Pan also seems to be quite narrow.
I was thinking the same thing. And it was even worse when it was stroller hell there,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so so basically everything I think we established that it's pretty.
Well,
darn
what about
busy.
Tomorrowland during the afternoon? I mean, it's not in the parade route.
I still think it's a pretty busy time of the day in Tomorrowland.
Well, Stitch and Monsters Inc. are never really that popular, right? I mean, they'll fill up the exterior queues, but they won't spill out into the street or anything. And Stitch hasn't distributed fast passes in years, essentially. Buzz is always really popular. Astro can be pretty popular. It just seems like there's a lot of people because there's sort of a big outdoor seating area, right? Obviously for lunch and stuff like that. And Cosmic Rays is obviously really popular. But I don't know. I mean, there's always quiet spots in Tomorrowland, especially by the Skyway bathrooms and over by Carousel of Progress. There's rarely anyone and stuff like that.
I think Henry's right, but by large, I think the area of Tomorrowland is just generally bigger than the other lands, so it's spread out more. Yeah. So there's a lot of open space, and like Henry said, there's benches alongside underneath the TTA. It's just more spread out. So even though it is crowded, it's not as massively packed as, let's say, Adventureland can get.
Right.
Let's move to the third quarter of the day. Third of the day. This will be the evening hours, basically after 5 o'clock. Anything beyond that. So where do we see now the busiest? Well, let's start. We've been doing least busy first. So what's the least busiest places in the park in the evening?
Liberty Square.
Pretty square at Adventureland.
Yeah. No, actually, I think, as I said earlier, I think Liberty Square is actually the busiest now because you've got people going to the Magic, like for the reasons I just mentioned, Haunted Mansion, dinner time. I think that pulls a lot more. What do you think about Fantasyland? Because by now, people are either done, they're going back home, they're eating, they're waiting for wishes, it just seems like Fantasyland is not as busy. Like, if you're talking like 6, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, anything beyond that, it seems to empty out the later you get.
It thins out. I think that's a good way of putting it. It thins out. It doesn't seem to be as bad. But you know what? Peter Pan always has a humongous wait, no matter what time of day.
Yeah, you're right about that. Do you think Adventureland would be a time here? I mean, to me, I've always, whenever I've done the full day touring plan, I always end up in Adventureland in the late afternoon, early in the evening. Like 5, 6 o'clock. This is when I ride Jungle Cruise and Pirates. It's just it lends itself to being that time of the day to enjoy those attractions. So I think I lean towards Adventureland being a busier park of the day. But actually, I think now Tomorrowland would be a really not that busy. Or thinner out, I should say.
It's funny because I'm thinking Adventureland would be the least busy, and there's several reasons for that, and this goes with why I think Main Street USA is the busiest part of the park. Because if we're looking at the last 4 hours and we're looking at number of guests per hour with the parade and with the fireworks and with people saying, I got to do some shopping, I have to think that Main Street USA and right around the Castle forefront is going to be a little bit busier than every other place in the park. Not a lot more busy, but busier. And I think Adventureland, Matt, for some reason, because it's off the beaten path a little bit, and it's not as popular as Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, I have to think that Adventureland the last 4 hours is going to have the least amount of traffic.
Yeah, I definitely agree about Main Street USA. It's a good point, Mike. I think it's definitely a busy time. What's your take on the last couple hours, Henry?
So I do think you get, as you get closer to the evening parade and the fireworks, Adventureland definitely thins out, but probably around dinner time or late afternoon, there is sort of maybe it gets even its busiest. It's hard to, I have to look at the wait time models to say exactly, but I do think you're right, Matt, though, what both you and Scope are right. Matt, I do think it peaks a little later just because people sort of save those for the end of the day, or logically at least you would.
Right.
And Scope, I think you're right that Main Street's got to be the biggest bottlenecks. I think Liberty Square, that I really hate Liberty Square during the evening parade. It's just impossible to get around. It's impossible to get through, and it just seems like a big pain. The other problematic areas, because I like focusing on the negatives, Crystal Palace that whole intersection.
Yes. Yes.
Big bottleneck area with dinner and people lining up for the fireworks.
It's a
Just
good,
witness that.
a
Just witness that.
it's a good viewing spot, number one, like Henry said.
Yeah.
And then everybody's
Yeah.
coming out for dinner. They just stand there.
Yeah.
Where does one area it's part of Frontierland, but we kind of overlooked it. Tom Sawyer's Island. When do you think that probably hits its worst? Midday, right?
Yeah, between 12 and 3.
Yeah. Well, it closes at dusk, right? So in
true,
the
good
early
point.
season, it'll close at like 5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
But later in summer, it closes at like 8 or something.
Yeah, that's about right.
So I probably imagine it peaks either just before or just after the parade.
Yeah, if you get there in the morning, in the morning hours, anytime before noon,
Dead.
really. I mean, it's dead. Yeah, you
It doesn't
have to
even
run
open
the
on time. I don't think it opens till 10.
Is that right?
Yeah, or at least that's the way it is in Disneyland.
Well, before we end today's episode, if you are looking for places to kind of relax in the Magic Kingdom, so places that are non-busy, typically most of the day, what would be some areas that you guys would recommend to go to if you're looking for a place to kind of relax, maybe take a breather, but still be in the park?
Wow.
I said earlier, there's a lot of places, a lot of benches and corners in Tomorrowland, over near on the side of where Buzz Lightyear lets out. There's a lot of area where the old stage show, the stage used to be.
Right.
There's a lot of areas back there, and alongside where the Skyway was, there's some areas that are just benches and stuff. It's not out of the way, but it's far enough away that if you need a few minutes just to sit down and make a phone call or something, it's a great place to spot.
How about speaking of Tomorrowland, Mike? I'm sure you would agree. Newell, you would agree with this. The TTA.
Awesome. That's a great place. If you just need 5 minutes to think, it's a great place just to get on that ride and just drive around and just look around, and it's a great ride to just unwind.
Yeah, it's a great if you're just looking to let your brain relax and just close your eyes even, and just have a subtle ride. And obviously some of it's air conditioned, but a lot of it, you're moving, so you get the nice breeze going. And there's never a line for it.
It's awesome. Yeah.
What are some other places in the Magic Kingdom you guys would recommend if you're looking for a relaxing spot?
Did they block off the path between, that goes behind Space Mountain to where Toontown used to be?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they
It's
must have.
closed. Yeah. I noticed there's a wall up there already.
This is a spot that I'm giving away a spot. When I'm down in December, people will be looking for me. When I'm in the Magic Kingdom and I need to make a phone call, I need to take care of a couple of business items, or I just want to get away in the shade.
Uh-huh.
Over by Liberty Square, where we said it's not too busy. But if you go back behind the Christmas shop, there's a little courtyard area back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a nice shady little spot. There's a gazebo back there. It's a really good spot to get away. Now, smoking does tend to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
But most of the time, I'm allergic to smoke. So most of the time, been back there many, many times when nobody's smoking because it's so out of the way.
It's not that's a great recommendation, actually. Another great area. I don't think there's any benches there, but when you're walking in Liberty Square to or from Frontierland, there's two ways to go. You go on the main path, and there's that little path that kind of meanders along the river over there, and there's the little path is more cut off from the main crowd. But I don't think there's anywhere to sit. That's my only thing. I mean, it might be nice if you're just looking.
They
for
have
a place
they have a few chairs and benches along the way, but not very much.
Right.
I got a few. The Pecos Bills, especially in the back and towards like Tortuga Tavern.
Right.
Even though it'll always be El Perito y Perico to me. I like that area. Also, the noodle station. No one ever there unless it's really hopping and they're serving food.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Or during the
The wishes, the dessert parties.
The dessert party,
it takes it over.
Yeah.
That's great. So I forgot about the
And I think it's air conditioning. Like sometimes you walk in there, you feel a nice breeze. I think there might be some air conditioning vents on top there. So
I also like across from the Emporium on Main Street. I guess like the East Street or whatever. There's probably a name for it.
Center Street? No? East
Center Street? Yeah, that sounds right. Sometimes is that's sort of overlooked, especially at night.
Yeah, great
Or
spot.
even the train. Even the train sometimes.
The train, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. How about during the least cooler months, at the Main Street station on the elevated side of it. So you go up to the station, but like overlooking the courtyard of Main Street USA. So if you're looking at basically you're looking down Main Street USA, there's a lot of chairs over there. And because you're elevated from the ground, again, it's nice separation from everyone else that's out there.
I just got a really good one. That is a good one. The Pirates. If you go into the queue area, like the outdoor queue area, it's not inside, but they have a bunch of like weird areas off to the left and the right that have like small seating areas, and they're like these fountains. I guess it's themed to be fountains. No one's ever there.
That's a great spot.
And that whole area in general, like once you get past Magic Carpets and the people waiting for the Tiki Room to reopen in September, there's lots of areas sort of back in Pirates. That area is pretty big. Tortuga Tavern, Pirates, along the backside where the McDonald's cart is.
Right. That's a good point also.
It's not McDonald's anymore, right? They took that away.
Is it not McDonald's?
The cart's still there, but it's
Westward Ho. Is it called Westward Ho, or they changed the name?
That I don't know. Yeah.
Westward Ho, the way.
Golden Oak Outpost. That's what it's called.
There you go.
Okay.
Golden Oak Outpost.
Very good. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Don't forget, this episode of WDW Today has been sponsored by All Star Vacation Homes. And yeah, if you're looking for somewhere to go to, a great place to go to, in fact, after a long day at the Magic Kingdom, you're saying, I tried all those spots you guys recommended to relax, but I really, really, really need to go back and just take a load off and let the family unwind. Well, All Star Vacation Homes would be a great place to go do all that because they've got so many great amenities. These are really nice houses. They're full-size houses. They're like houses like you could literally live in, but you can rent them. And the best part is the price. These really are competitively priced, and they're a terrific value. You really need to check them out. Go to allstarvacationhomes.com right now and check out all the great houses they've got. Before you know it, you're going to be saying, honey, time to book.
Huh?
Don't forget our next live show is Sunday, June 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, featuring Deb Wills of allears.net. That's right, a bona fide, certified, electrified celebrity. So check them out. Deb will be with us on June 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. More details on that will be at wdwtoday.com. If you find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, you can visit us online at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Sopa, Mike Newell, the fabulous Annette Owens, and Henry Work, I'm Matt Hotchberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.